guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope that 2017 is off to a great start for you so far. I thought I would kick off the new year with an eyeshadow palette collection because I usually like to film one of these every single year and just share with you guys which palettes I currently have inside my collection. If you want to check out the previous year's videos, I will link them in the description box below along with my eyeshadow palette declutter videos because I do declutter a ton of palettes. I kind of have a lot in my collection right now, so it might be time for another declutter. But before I do that, I'll share with you guys which ones are my favorites. And then if you do want to see a full makeup collection and storage video, just let me know and I will definitely film it for you guys. So the first palette is the Lorac Unzipped palette. I actually just added this one to my collection not too long ago, but I love these shadows. They actually are really different than the Lorac Pro shadows. They're not as soft or blendable, but they're a little bit more pigmented and they're a little bit more dry. So I actually kind of prefer this formula because they're a little bit easier to work with and they don't blend away. The next palette is the Urban Decay Smoked palette. I'm pretty sure this one was discontinued, but I got mine online from HauteLook.com, which is definitely where I get a lot of my palettes for a discounted price. This one is great because it comes with a lot of smoky shadows, so if you're looking to do a smoky eye, obviously this is a great option. And I think they're nice. They are really pigmented, really blendable, so if you can end up getting your hands on this, I would recommend it as well. This one is the Smashbox Double Exposure palette, and I actually ended up decluttering the Smashbox Full Exposure palette because I wasn't a huge fan of the formula. I feel like there are a lot of other palettes that are just better quality, and it's surprising because I am a huge Smashbox fan in general, but for some reason their shadows are not my favorite. They did just come out with a bunch of new shadows, which I have over here, and I love those, which I'll get to in a second, but this palette's okay. The colors are beautiful, the formula is not amazing. So next we have the Anastasia Self-Made palette. This one was limited edition, and I'm a huge fan of the colors. I saw Jacqueline do a tutorial using it, so that is totally the reason I bought it, and honestly I don't use it a ton because the colors are a little bit on the unique side, but that's also the reason why I hang on to it. I feel like I'm alone on this, but I'm not a huge fan of the Anastasia shadows. I feel like they're okay quality, but I have so many other palettes that are just better quality. And I don't know if it's just me, because I feel like so many people rave about them, or I just may not have gotten like the best palette yet. I'm thinking about getting the Modern Renaissance palette, so if I do grab that one, I guess we'll see. Next I have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. So I have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar, the Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar, and the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. So I will show you guys some close-ups of all three of them. I did recently just get the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, but I haven't even tried it yet, so I didn't include it in this video. These are my favorite palettes ever. I love that they are neutral. I love that they smell like chocolate. They're just really nice quality. They're pigmented, but they're not overly soft and overly pigmented, so they blend really beautifully on the eyes, and there are just so many different colors to choose from. So I would definitely recommend grabbing one of them, or even 1, 2, or 3 of them, because you can use them together and they create so many beautiful looks. So these have been my favorite for a while. I haven't really found anything to replace them yet, so I'm a huge fan. So these are my Belfiore Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes, and they sell these as single shadows, or you can buy the palettes on the website and then just kind of create your own. I feel like I never hear anyone talk about these, but the shadows themselves are amazing, especially the shimmery shades. They're so beautiful, and they're almost like a pressed pigment. They just look gorgeous on the eyes. You can use them wet or dry, and they are definitely some of my favorites, so I would absolutely recommend checking them out. So next I have my Urban Decay Naked palettes. So I'm sure you guys have seen these on YouTube many times, so I'm not going to spend too long on them, but I do have Urban Decay Naked 1, Naked 2, Naked 3, and Naked Smoky, and I'm a huge fan of these. I don't wear them as much as I used to in the beginning because they were some of my first high-end eyeshadow palettes, but I still like them. I feel like the pigmentation is so nice, and I'm a huge fan of Urban Decay eyeshadows. I feel like they're just good go-to everyday palettes, so you can use them on their own or in combination with other eyeshadows, and I will always be a big fan of the Naked palettes. It's really hard to choose just one. It really depends on what you're looking for. If you like warm shadows, go with the first one. If you are a fan of cooler shadows, definitely go with the second one. If you like pink or rosy tones, go with the third one. And if you are more of a smoky fan, then the fourth one or the Naked Smoky will work really well for you. So I actually just got this palette in a BoxyCharm, and it is the Buff Collection by Pure Cosmetics. It's very similar to Urban Decay's Naked 3. I think they might have just duped all of the Urban Decay Naked palettes, but it's funny because I've actually been using this one a lot more than Urban Decay's Naked 3. I feel like the shadows are just really soft and blendable, so that's kind of the shadow type that I've really been loving lately, and they're super pigmented. So even though it is like a complete ripoff of the Naked 3, I've been a huge fan of this one. My Lorac Pro Pro Palette is definitely in rough shape. I've had this one for a while and it's definitely been one of my favorites. It has a whole row of matte shadows and a whole row of shimmer shadows. I liked this one over the LORAC Pro 2 because the colors were a little bit more warm and they were definitely shadows that I would reach for on an everyday basis. LORAC Pro 2 had a lot more cool tone shadows and I never ended up wearing it, so I ended up passing it along. So way in the very back I have a few palettes. I have this one from Ofra, which I got in a BoxyCharm as well. Again, I'll probably end up decluttering this one just because I completely forgot about it until now. I just don't usually use shadows in like this Z palette form. I don't know why, but for some reason I just never reach for them. So I'll probably end up passing this one along to somebody else, but they're just single Ofra Cosmetics shadows. I have the Lorac Mega Pro palette. This was the first one that they came out with and I love the colors in this palette. I think they're so beautiful and unique, and I'm definitely a huge fan of the Lorac Pro formula, so I did keep this one in my collection. Then I have the Lorac Mega Pro 3. I never ended up purchasing the second one. I just got the first one and the third one, but I'm a huge fan of the third palette. These are just beautiful warm shadows. The only problem is that it is big and bulky, so I don't generally reach for it as often as I would like to, and the palette is white, so it gets really dirty really easily. But the shadows are such good quality that it really just doesn't even matter, and I love it. So I know it was limited edition. If you can get your hands on it, whether through eBay or Amazon, I would definitely recommend it. So I was totally debating whether or not I should even share this in this video because it's so pathetic. This is my MAC eyeshadow palette, and if you guys watched my last year's video or the year before that, I have had the same palette and I haven't filled it with MAC shadows or Makeup Geek. These two up here are Makeup Geek. I got them in a BoxyCharm, and a lot of you guys leave me so many recommendations every year and I don't know why. I just haven't gotten around to it. So I'm absolutely going to fill it this year. This will be my last year that I ask you guys for recommendations on shadows to fill this palette. Okay, so right here in the front I have my Smashbox Cover Shop palettes. These are actually a new release from Smashbox, and they came out with 7 different eyeshadow palettes. So these are really great for travel, and they're also just great if you don't want to spend the money on a full-size palette, because honestly I just feel like very few people actually use up a full-size palette. So I am a huge fan of these. I think the shadows are a lot more blendable and pigmented than the other Smashbox palettes like the double exposure and the full exposure. I also like these because they have different palettes with different themes. So depending on what you're looking for, there's definitely going to be something that works for you. And the shadows are just really beautiful. So I would recommend trying them out for sure. Then these two palettes are the e.l.f. Clay eyeshadow palettes, and I really like these because they are pigmented, but you can use them wet or dry. They're a little bit more of a dry formula, so you don't get a ton of fallout, and they are really nice. They go on the eyes beautifully, they blend out really nicely, but if you want to amp up the pigmentation, all you have to do is wet your brush. So I'm a big fan of these. I think they are some of the better eyeshadows that e.l.f. makes. Okay, so this one is the ColourPop Weekend Warrior eyeshadow palette that just came out. It is a collaboration with Amanda Steele, and it has 4 powder eyeshadows. Honestly, it's an okay palette. It's definitely not my favorite ColourPop formula. I prefer their single shadows, but if you are more of a powder eyeshadow fan, you might be a big fan of this. The colors are unique, and I think the darker shades are a little bit more pigmented than the lighter shades, but it's worth trying out if you're interested. I mean, it is $18, so it's not super affordable, and I don't know, I definitely prefer their regular shadows. So both of these palettes are from Tarte. The top one is the Be Your Own Tartist palette, and the bottom one is the Poppy Picnic palette. These are nice because they come with 6 shadows and a full-size blush. I'm pretty sure the blush is full-size, so it usually is a great value. I don't know if they have these on the website or not. I think technically, or usually they're like limited edition palettes, and I'm not a huge Tarte eyeshadow fan. I feel like they are a lot more dry, so if you are a dry shadow fan, these might be for you. But for me, they're not my absolute favorite. I do think they're good go-to neutral palettes, so I do keep them in my collection, and I'm a huge fan of the Tarte Amazonian Clay blushes that are included inside. This is just an eyeshadow palette from Itsy. I actually have the Coffee Break with Danny Itsy collaboration shadows inside, and the collection is called the Lotus Collection. I'm a huge fan of these shadows. I should have done a Get Ready With Me. I'll link it in the description box below once it is live, but these are beautifully pigmented. Itsy actually sells individual shadows. I haven't tried any of them other than these 4, but I'm a huge fan of these shadows. So I do have a bunch of single Coastal Scents eyeshadows. These are the first half and then I have a second half. These are my favorite. They're so affordable. They're $1.99 each and they have so many to choose from on the website. So I have a lot of neutral colors because that is what I typically wear. And then they sell the palettes separately on the website, but they are so affordable. If you haven't tried these yet, I definitely recommend them. They're really pigmented and really easy to work with, and I'm a huge fan. I have the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette. I think I got this for Christmas last year maybe from my mom, and I love this palette because it is full of neutral shadows that are just really easy to wear. I don't wear it as often as I would like to. I just love the actual packaging, and I don't save a lot of products based on packaging, but I love this one. I think it is absolutely beautiful, and the shadows themselves they're okay. They're not as good as the Urban Decay Naked palettes, but they are okay if you just want like good go-to everyday shadows. I have this Stila palette that my sister gave me a while ago. It came as a trio from Nordstrom Rack, and the shadows are just really beautiful and warm, and these are like the only Stila shadows I have. So if you guys do have any Stila recommendations, let me know in the comments below. This one is the Meet Matrimony palette from the Balm, and this one is full of matte eyeshadows. I did have the original Meet Matte palette or Meet Matte Nudes palette, but I ended up decluttering it because I never wore it. But I am a big fan of the colors in this palette, and I definitely wear it, and I would recommend it for sure. So I have a few Morphe palettes. I got this one from Hotlook, and it is the 35W palette. Honestly, I don't use these as much as I would like to. They're just so big and bulky, but it has so many beautiful colors in it, so I definitely want to make it a goal to use this more often in 2017. And then this one is from Morphe as well, but it is the Jacqueline Hill palette that she came out with a few years ago. And again, I just don't reach for it as often as I would like to. I feel like big palettes like these, they just don't fit in my everyday makeup drawer as well, so I don't use them as much as I should. But I do like these palettes, I just need to use them more. I have the Urban Decay Naked Basics, which is full of 6 matte shadows, and this is an amazing palette. I use it all the time, probably not as often as I should, but I used to use it every single day to either create a look using the palette by itself, or I would use it in combination with other palettes. Then we have the Naked 2 Basics, which is really similar, but this one has 6 more cool tone shadows, so just depending on which color shadows you're looking for, this might be one that works better for you. I also loved this one. I used to use it all the time, so I would recommend either one of them. This is my only NARS palette. I got it a long time ago. I should probably declutter it. It is their palette. I think it's called And God Created the Woman. It's from an older collection, but I just wasn't really like that impressed by NARS shadows after I tried this palette, so I never really ended up trying any more of them, but you guys will have to let me know in the comments if you are a NARS eyeshadow fan. I have 2 palettes from Essence Cosmetics. The first one is all about bronze, and the second one is all about nudes, and these are really nice. They are so affordable. They're definitely some of the most affordable drugstore eyeshadow palettes that I've ever seen. The shadows are really soft and pigmented. I was so blown away the first time that I swatched them because I just didn't have super high hopes for them because they were so affordable, but I was definitely wrong. I think these are beautiful. I do have an eyeshadow palette tutorial using them if you guys want to check it out, but if you're just looking for really simple shadows or just like easy to wear everyday colors, these would definitely be a good option for you. I have 2 Buxom palettes. The first one is a custom palette. I chose these 6 shadows and then I put them into a palette. I just thought they were really beautiful colors that I would wear. And the second one is Dolly's Wild Side, and it just comes with a lot of gorgeous colors. So I'm a huge fan of these Buxom palettes. I feel like the shadows are really pigmented and really blendable, and they're definitely some of my favorite. They have so many to choose from, so you can create your own palette using their shadows, and it really is a great deal because the palette costs $40 with the 6 shadows, but it's like a $65 value or something like that, so it's a great deal. Okay, so in the back there I have a Stila palette. This one is the I Wonder palette, and I got it as part of one of their holiday collections either last Christmas or the Christmas before, and it just comes with 4 really beautiful shadows. And then I have a bunch of e.l.f. Cosmetics palettes. I've talked about these so much, so I won't go into too much detail, but e.l.f. has a lot of different palettes on the website. So they have some Prism eyeshadow palettes which come with shimmery shades, and these are really beautiful. I'm a huge fan of these. And then they also just have these eyeshadow palettes that come with a bunch of matte and slightly shimmery shadows as well. So depending on what you're looking for, they probably will have something that works for you. I think in general these are good quality shadows, especially for the drugstore price. So in the back I just have a few random shadows. The first one is the Igracias palette from the Solo Look, and this one comes with 4 really beautiful warm shadows. Then we have the LORAC Pro Matte palette, which comes with 8 matte eyeshadows, and they're all neutrals, so this is a great palette to have on hand if you're looking just to create easy everyday looks or you want to use it in combination with another palette. Then I have two of the Studio Makeup On The Go eyeshadow palettes. I got these in BoxyCharms as well, and these are really just nice 9-pan eyeshadow palettes. They're nicely pigmented, they're blendable, and the colors are just really beautiful. So I would definitely recommend checking these out if you didn't get them in a BoxyCharm already. Okay, finishing up, these might be a little bit hard to see, so I will do close-up shots, but these are just like my small palettes. Some of them are from the drugstore, some of them I've gotten in subscription boxes, and they just fit really nicely in this container that I got from Target. So I just include these right on the side of my makeup collection. Finishing up, I have two palettes from Too Faced. The first one is the Natural at Night palette, and this one just comes with 9 different neutral eyeshadows that you can use to kind of smoke out your eye look. You could also wear them on like an everyday basis, but I like these more so during the summertime because they kind of have just really pretty like shimmer to them. So I'm a huge fan of this palette. Then I have the Too Faced Natural Eye palette. This one again is just filled with 9 neutral shadows. I've had this palette for a long time. It was definitely one of my first palettes, and it was one of my favorites, and I just love the shadows. I feel like Too Faced shadows are really romantic looking and just kind of really pretty on the eyes. They're soft and they're subtle, but they still give your eyes a really beautiful look. So I definitely like this one. They've repackaged it since this, or this is like an older version of it, but I believe they still have it around. Then I have the LORAC Pro To Go, which comes with 6 shadows, 2 blushes, and a bronzer. So this is a really good palette. The LORAC Pro formula is definitely one of my favorites, but I like to wear this one during the fall time because I feel like the shadows just remind me of fall for some reason. But if you are looking for a good palette just to keep in your everyday makeup drawer that kind of is like a multitasking palette, this is a great option. Okay guys, that is the end of my video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Don't forget to leave me a comment with your favorite eyeshadow palette so I can make sure to check it out if I haven't already. And I will see you guys in my next video.